Hi, I'm Jason Gorb for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to look at the Complete Stax, now being released on vinyl.
Big shelf.
So I got to tell you a story about music collecting. I mean, obviously, I'm slightly obsessed with all of this stuff at the best of times, but I was at a party. We're going to name drop here. I was at a party with Dan Aykroyd, because that's what one did in Kingston, Ontario. It was actually a Tragically Hip record release party, day for night, 94, I guess it was. And I was talking with Aykroyd about music collecting and how, of all things, the song Soulfinger from Spies Like used in Spies Like Us, I was totally obsessed with it. And I thanked him specifically for how the Blues Brothers, for me, really opened my eyes to the Atlantic, the Stax recordings, that through them, it was my real introduction. I'd heard, obviously, Aretha Franklin, That's What Friends Are For, and all the schmaltz in the 80s that I grew up with. But it was the Blues Brothers and Aykroyd's love of this era of soul music, the 50s and 60s era of soul music, that it's his love that allowed me to go back and actually discover this stuff. And he told me at the time, he's like, oh yeah, you should go pick up the Stax Volume 1 CD set. And again, there was an amazing record store on Princess Street in Kingston, so I went there and I thought, like, okay, so it'll just be some little compilation. Yeah, it was this guy. So this is the crazy complete Stax Volt Volume 9 volume box set singles, everything from 1958 to 68, 59 to 68, excuse me. And inside this set is a book, which we'll get to in a sec, but a series of CDs that basically was the complete recordings of this label. This is how I learned what Stax was. Everybody had heard of Motown and stuff like that, and Stax was just this thing. Like, I'd heard Sam and Dave, I guess. I knew Otis Redding was tangentially involved. I think by then I might have known that people like members of Booker T that were in Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn that were in the Blues Brothers. I might have known that connection, but I certainly didn't know that much. Now, the book, a Grammy Award-winning book, included all kinds of notes and all kinds of really amazing stuff put together by, and right here on the top, you're not going to see it with all the glare, but Rob Bowman, who is still, I guess, an associate professor or somewhere at York University. Nonetheless, Canadian Rob Bowman, who basically took a lot of his research that he had from the books he'd written about Stax and actually used it to tell this complete story. And through these discs, I mean, this was like as somebody who, at the best of times, is a completist, the fact that I thought, oh, okay, so if I get this nonsense, and then we'll just put it so the right way we're up, if I get this nonsense, I get all of these songs all at once, starting with Fool in Love by the Veltones and going all the way to Johnny Taylor's I Ain't Peculiar. So all of this stuff in one set. And it's like, and then I'm like, okay, oh my God, it's a box set. I want to say this was $300 in the mid 90s, which was a fortune. But I thought, okay, this is incredibly important. This is like me buying, a library of all this stuff. But of course, what they did, God bless them, is when they did the, and they said complete, right? So whatever, it's the complete. They, of course, also had a volume 2. Volume 2, a whole nother series going from 1968 to 71. So you can see how many more songs they were coming during that period as they were absolutely in their heyday. Volume 2 in this blue set, again, another book that actually details all the elements. Again, some amazing tracks on here. Oh my God. Produced by Bill Belmont and Rob Bowman. So another of the Rob Bowman monster sets with a series of discs inside this. And then, of course, there was a third volume because welcome to my life. So here's another series, volume 3, with another monstrous amount of music, another booklet, and another series. So really, the first set goes the 10-year period. This one goes 68 to 71. This one is 72 to 75 with another series, another group of discs all in here, and another fabulous booklet, once again put together as expected by Bill Bowman and Rob Bowman, full details about all of these elements. So in terms of having like a center pride of a collection, this really was a big deal. You go through it with a booklet, you learn about all this stuff. It really was sort of a graduate level education in all things Stax. Now, before this, because of course Stax, the collaboration, as it were, between Stax and Atlantic was quite prominent. I mean, there's lots of people will know the story of people like Sam and Dave actually being asked by Atlantic to actually be recorded there. It gets very complicated very quickly, but nonetheless, there's a direct correlation between the stuff now broadly part of the Warner Group, but between Stax that was taking place in Memphis, Atlantic that was up in Chicago, and all the dynamics at play there. Now, there was an Atlantic set before all of these sets. Here's this guy. So this is the Atlantic Rhythm and Blues 1947 to 74. So a massive, massive set. This happens to be the vinyl version. I had the CD version, but this one I actually upgraded on vinyl. 186 selections, as it proudly does. And each of these also is a way of sort of diving into an entire record label, and with copious notes on the inside, and all of these elements here. Yeah, Joe Morris, Low Groovin', Ray Charles, Midnight Hour. I mean, just incredible, incredible stuff on here. Overwhelmingly great stuff. So that to actually go through all the volumes sort of systematically with the liner notes, again, it's this journey that you actually have with this, which I really, really loved. So these Stax compilations, this guy has been a really big deal for me. I haven't spent nearly as much time lately on it. I went through sort of when I first got them, again, 30-something years ago now. Oh my God, so long ago. Point is that when I actually picked these up, I sort of went through systematically, and that really founded the grounding of my love of this type of music. Since then, I haven't really had as much cause to actually go through track by track the way that I did at the time. I do this all the time, but a huge shout out to the 500 Songs podcast, Andrew Hickey. He's probably sick of people talking about his podcast, but nonetheless, I'm going to really suggest you start at the beginning, because that has not only sort of energized my love of this type of music, but has really beautifully contextualized so much of these songs and the way that they fit into the grander scope of rock and roll history. It's pretty phenomenal. So, all of that being said, now, after long last, after many decades, you actually are getting this guy split into these guys. And I've said this before, there is something to be said about me sitting down and listening to a record, which is a fundamental different experience for me now in 2024 than listening to a CD. The CD stuff's all ripped, it's on my server, it can go back and forth, I can listen to this stuff on streaming, even easier. But being there on the record, the very ritual of music listening is simply maintained, for a better word, or elevated when you actually have vinyl. So I am looking forward to, as crazy as it is, basically revisiting this in this form. So these are the first 2 volumes of Stax, the Complete Stax Vault, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Singles, this is 1959 to 68. Again, it's the same thing, singles 59 to 68, first 2 volumes. And if you actually look at the track listing, so we got Fool in Love, 'Cause I Love You, Gee Whiz, Look at His Eyes. Well, Fool in Love, 'Cause I Love You, Gee Whiz. You Make Me Look Good, all the way there. So this goes, the first disc, and there are 3 discs each, so we'll open them up, goes all the way to William Bell's Just As I Thought. And Volume 2 goes from What a Fool I've Been by Carl Thomas and goes all the way to Please Return to Me. So I think it's about halfway, a little less than halfway maybe, through this set. And what it means is that they're going to be doing these hypothetically, provided they sell well, they're going to be doing all of these until just getting this one set. And once this is done, who knows if they're getting these guys. That's a whole nother story. But I love that they are doing this for new vinyl collectors And included in this are updates of those notes. So let's crack it open, see what it looks like inside. There's no hype sticker or anything like that, but I'm going to open it up carefully anyway and look inside to see how it works. So we know the book on the inside was just the sort of printed book. In here, what we have are really lovely, that's gorgeous, the sort of cyan and peach colored version of the Stax inner. The Soulsville, USA, outside from its former theater. And this is one of those trifold things that opens like a book, right? So that this actually flaps open. And so there we have, and then we have a booklet sort of falling out. So this sort of peach thing on either side with this record here. So before we get into that version of the booklet, let's look at the records itself. So as I undo this, as hoped for, as I keep saying on this channel, thank you, Warner. They're actually usually really good about doing this for this pressing, which is vinyl-lined paper sleeves. If you're going to do paper sleeves, sure, you could do the Mo-Fire Vinyl Storage Solutions style with the rice paper and stuff like that. But at the very least, these means that I'm going to get clean records without a lot of paper schmutz on them, which is fantastic. The records themselves, just, you know, regular black vinyl. Doesn't feel particularly weighty. But yeah, looks totally clean. I'd say 140 grams at best. You know, this is going to be newly mastered versions of these tracks. I'll be interested to see how they play against the CD equivalent. The records themselves, again, very straightforward. Just double checking to see if there's anything particularly egregious as I open it up. They look basically what you would want them to look like. Putting them on a rack here where they're going to be cleaned in the degritter anyway. Yes, everybody should have a degritter. Yes, I clean brand new records. That is a thing to do after they come out of the plant. You always want to do at least one rinse. So some schmutz on here, but that will come off very quickly. And yeah, simple, the sort of silver label, black record. Looks exactly what you would want it to look like. And then in this, as I get rid of all this stuff, the booklet. And so the booklet for volume 1, much more colorful printing, and a series of liner notes recently updated by Rob Bowman, based in part on the work that he did, the Grammy Award-winning part that he did on volume 1. So each of these has a slightly thinner, but nonetheless effective booklet that tells the story of this particular era, which again goes from the Veltones all the way to William Bell, just as I thought. And so that is the volume 1. And something tells me the volume 2 is going to be very, very similar. As I said, this goes from What a Fool I've Been all the way to Please Return Me by the Fleets, but Bash Bash by the Marquis, Ivory Joe Hunter, Booker T and the MGs, with Soul Dressing, amazing. Security by Otis Redding. So it's funny because a lot of these will be very new to listeners of this this era of soul music. These are relatively obscure compared to the stuff that would sort of play out. Again, it's not as if there aren't monster hits during this era. Of course there are, but a lot of those actually sort of fall into volume 2, that sort of late 60s era where Stax was just monster hits on a repeated basis in and around, unfortunately, the time that they actually lost Otis Redding, which made things very, very complicated. Nonetheless, here's volume 2. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of a corner ding on this one, but that's what happens sometimes with shipping. Similar thing. We have the booklet, which we'll look at in a second. And yeah, the similar kind of multicolor inside matching the theme with the printing, the monochromatic printing of that. The records themselves, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but nonetheless, the label then, instead of being gray, is a sort of baby blue that matches the outer cover. Same vinyl lined paper sleeves. And yeah, the pressings themselves, it looks like, you know, they're not crammed in, they're not putting too many in. Sort of appropriate amount of space in the lead out so that you know that you're getting sort of hypothetically decent pressing. They're not you know, just trying to squish too many things on here all at once, which is nice. Record looks great. And here, again, we're just looking for something on camera that's egregious, just in case if I see it, maybe you see it on yours. But I'm pretty pleased about the pressings so far of all this stuff from Warner. And you know, they're really treating this stuff with the respect it deserves. Yep, record looks great. So in this guy, we'll look at the booklet again. So this is the Volume 2 booklet. And the same kind of thing, a much more colorful presentation, but pretty straightforward, showing the history of all these elements and the way that the songs go, all the way to song 6. So it goes up to, in this set, all the way up to from April 1963 until August 24th, 1964. So again, I'm probably not on camera going to find right away where this actually ends. The fleets. I'm trying to see whether or not I can see it, but it's so crazy the number of stuff here. What I'm trying to find is a particular title, and the odds of me finding it quickly are not there, but somebody will know. I'm guessing it's probably the first quarter of this, if that, is actually sort of played out that way through here. And so if you compare the booklets again, this is this huge, thick booklet that sort of tells the whole story, and this is a much thinner, sort of less robust booklet than came in the original box set. But the inside, this is a relatively plain black and white printing, whereas the other one much more colorful, thanks to, you know, the advent of digital printing and all the stuff that we actually are used to now. So as we go through here, I might be able to do this way. I am looking for 64, so this is the way we can do it, of course. So we are up to Volume 2 goes to, on the CD, 63 goes to 63, so 64 we end with. I'm sorry, this must be completely inane, but you understand why we're doing this. Please return to me in 64 is the end of, there we are, it does. It's the first 3 discs. We've answered the question. These are 9 discs, so this is the first third, I guess. 2 vinyl collections to do the first third of the box set. Yeah, please return to me, bash. Can't explain how it happened exactly. So if you open this guy up, we have on this volume 1, 2, and 3, which is the first. You see, there's 3 sections. So we have these 3 CDs spread over 2 3-record sets. So 6 records to make these 3 CDs, and this is what we're getting. Which means we have, should this continue, and long may it run, we will get the records for these 3 and these 3 in subsequent volumes. So that would be vinyl, volume 3, 4, 5, 6, just to do this box set. And we'll see again if they continue even further and do the entire run of these monsters on vinyl. I would love to see it happen. I look forward to listening to them. But above all, I know that I will sit down and listen on vinyl in a way that I haven't in years in CD, simply because of the pleasure of just sitting and listening to my vinyl setup and the joy of having this this set that I can actually sort of respond to in that way. Other people may not feel the same, but certainly that's the way that I'm going to experience these. I'm very excited to dig in with Rob's new liner notes to see how they actually compare. And what's nice is that I can actually go back and see what has changed. Research has changed. Certainly, maybe some of his tone has changed. Some of his content has changed. We'll actually see how it plays out. But there's our celebration, frankly, of the final release of the Stax complete set on vinyl. I'd love to know what you think in the comments about this particular release. Please let us know. Subscribe, hit the bell, do all of that stuff. We will see you next video. Thanks so much for watching. All the best. Take care.